He stole my business. I stole his house. The foreclosure twist. The office door was already unlocked, which made no sense because I was always first. His laptop glowed on the desk. Inbox open. Subject line: patent submission confirmation. My stomach dropped and then went oddly calm, the way it does when your brain pulls the fire alarm and your body turns into a checklist. He'd filed our algorithm under his name. A calendar ping chimed. Investor lunch at noon. I hit print on every message that mattered and slid the cheap burner phone from his drawer into my pocket. Two choices: feed his drama or starve it. The decision landed hard. If he wanted to steal my future, I'd buy his present. I'd take his house without him knowing it was me. No screaming, just paper. The world, the partner, the knife in the back. We built the company on a diet of instant noodles and optimism. Nights bled into mornings, code into coffee. We pitched friends who had no money, and they promised intros to people who also had no money. But momentum felt real because we believed the story we were telling. We were two guys with a clever algorithm that made messy data behave, and the world was going to thank us with term sheets and headlines. You know the lie. It feels like truth when you're exhausted and 27. Ethan could walk into a room and make it feel like a runway. He was good at eyes, hands, tempo, the honey that keeps meetings going 15 minutes longer than the calendar says. Charming, careless with credit, careful with glory. He'd say my product and then cough over it, grin like it was a joke. Classic narcissist tells: credit hoarding, manufactured charm, selective amnesia when bills arrive. I ignored the micro tells because we were knee-deep in shared struggle, and struggle is a loud roommate that drowns out whispers. There were signs. The NDA he sent to a vendor had a typo that left our names off the definition of disclosing party, just his LLC. Our repo permission shifted one afternoon because security, and I couldn't push to main for 2 hours until he fixed it. He insisted we pay for paid follower campaigns for social proof, while I paid the AWS bill with my personal card. Cognitive dissonance did cartwheels. I labeled manipulation as messy and theft as typo. I chose hope because it was cheap. The inciting incident arrived without drama, just a subject line and the quiet click of my jaw tensing. Patent submission confirmation. His name. Our invention. He'd also locked the repo behind a new branch policy, then booked a silent investor lunch with a guy who'd ghosted me last month. Like I said, signs. He'd just turned up the volume. Immediate fallout is never cinematic. It's payroll bouncing and a landlord notice stuck under the office door with blue painter's tape. It's an engineer texting, "Hey, is everything okay?" It's me refreshing the bank app and watching the numbers pretend to be bigger if I stared hard enough. My credit took a hit from the last-minute bridge to cover a vendor. His Instagram had him clinking glasses with a caption about hustle. I could taste the metal in my mouth. Stakes were simple, brutal math. He keeps the company shell and the narrative. I keep the debt and the humiliation. The investors would side with whoever booked the room at the hotel bar. That wasn't me. I do quiet well. Quiet doesn't trend. I promised myself one thing: no cops, no lawsuits. Not because I couldn't, but because the process would feed him. He thrives on being the main character. I'd starve his supply. Financial chess only. Paper, timing, leverage. I'd make the board small and the move slow. I'd let gravity work. So I started with curiosity. I called the bank pretending to be a guy thinking of a loan. "Just doing research," I said, and asked meaningless questions to hear what they asked back. I wanted to learn their rhythm, where the friction lives when someone's overextended. It's amazing what people teach you if you sound like you're already a customer. When you strip the romance from a startup, you're left with bills. He had a taste for shiny. I had a taste for survival. I went home to my one bedroom in a fridge that held leftovers and a single beer. I pulled public records like it was a hobby. County records are honest if you're polite with your search terms. There it was, his house. Purchased on the upswing, refinanced when rates were jokes, and he couldn't stop laughing. A HELOC with a rate that smiled until it didn't. Adjustable rate cliff in 90 days. He bragged about the Tesla. The refinance paid for the brag. I made a list across a legal pad. On his side, ego, charm, a half-truth narrative, and people who like dinner stories. On mine, documentation, commit history, emails where he said the quiet part a little too loud, and time. Motive clarity steadied my hands. This wasn't vengeance. It was boundary enforcement. I underlined time because it's ruthless and dependable. You don't fight time. You Align with it, Mom called that night. "You sound thin," she said, which is her way of saying tired. I told her I was fine. I wasn't. I lay on an air mattress because I'd sold my bed after the last move and never replaced it. My neighbor's cat wandered in through the window. I swear I closed. He sat like a judge and blinked at me like I was guilty of something I hadn't done yet. I stared at the ceiling and set a rule: no collateral damage to his kid or his ex. This wasn't about punishment. It was about balance and self-respect. He took reputation and runway. I'd take leverage. I'd land on paper, not on people. The next morning, I brewed coffee that tasted like decisions and triggered the license heartbeat on our code to quietly expire for trial accounts. Not a bomb, a slow oxygen drop. And as the office plants wilted on his grid, I started mapping weak spots, one payment at a time. Map the weak spots: debt, ego, and leverage. Public records don't lie, they just whisper. I spent a Saturday with coffee and county websites, cross-referencing parcel numbers with lien indexes until the tabs blurred. The research trance worked like therapy. Give anxious hands a method, and the panic gets bored. There it was. First mortgage with a sweet teaser, then a HELOC stacked on top like a Jenga piece someone nudged after 2 beers. 2 high-interest cards linked to the same address, both with recent delinquency flags. He'd built a throne out of introductory rates. His house looked better on paper than in person, square footage bragging, equity pretending to exist. The ARM was set to reset in 90 days. The new rate would chew his paycheck like a garbage disposal. He refinanced during the free money parade, peeled equity to buy a Tesla and a hot tub he called hydrotherapy. I remembered the brochure still on the kitchen island, the way he'd patted the page like it was a dog. The rate cliff wasn't a cliff, it was gravity remembering its job. His ego did the rest of the math for me. I pulled his social metrics and found a bot farm's fingerprints, followers spiking at 3 a.m., engagement shaped like a flat line. Receipts lived in an old shared drive he'd forgotten to lock. Invoices from a growth partner with a Dubai P.O. box and a Gmail. Cash burn is louder when it buys applause. Every dollar cheering him on was a dollar not paying a bill. I listed my assets like a quiet inventory, documentation, commit history, the emails where he promised things he didn't own, screenshots of calendar invites that excluded me, the original whiteboard photo with both our signatures, time-stamped in the eCASIF data. And time, always time. I drew a timeline from patent confirmation to rate reset and penciled in every soft spot: trial licenses, vendor renewal dates, payroll cycles, debt sale windows. It looked like a subway map to know where he wanted to ride. The plan wasn't cinematic. It was a sequence. Starve the runway, lock the tech, buy the paper. Every step had to be clean, boring, and entirely legal. No late-night rage emails. No victory laps. I wrote moral line across the top of my notebook and underlined it twice. No collateral damage to his kid or his ex. If any move threatened them, I'd drop it. This was a duel on paper, not people. First, I let the license heartbeat do its quiet work. Trials started lapping, support inbox swarmed with expired pings. My fingerprints were nowhere. I forwarded a few bugs anonymously to an open source mailing list under a handle I'd used in college, nudging eyes toward the problems he'd been wallpapering. Then I seeded a subtle competitor fork, our last permissive version, de-risked and clean, with documentation that didn't insult the reader. Not a copy, just an inevitability given our license at the time. I tagged it with seeking maintainers and stepped back. Options breed pressure. Investors don't like pressure. I called 2 mutuals for coffee and asked innocent questions about scalability. People love to fill silence with concern. Social psychology 101. Uncertainty shared becomes caution. Word moves like fog. No one sees where it starts, but suddenly everyone's damp. By the time a vendor demanded prepayment, the ADP dashboard was already frowning. He messaged our old team channel about macro headwinds. He meant the wind he'd created by opening all the windows. Meanwhile, I studied the debt market like I was cramming for a test I'd already scheduled. Charged-off cards don't disappear, they migrate. Paper moves in bundles, discounted by how much pain is attached. I talked to a broker who spoke in percentages and size, learned the latter: original creditor, charge-off, sale to a buyer, resale to a smaller buyer. The right slice of pain, priced right, becomes leverage, not harassment. Options. I wanted a seat at the table labeled payable to. I mapped the HELOC next. Junior liens are like younger siblings. They have to wait their turn, but they still eat. If I could get in second position cheap, the rate Reset could do my talking. I rehearsed the call with a mirror until my voice sounded like a spreadsheet. Calm, exact, a little bored. When the day came, I dialed and asked about portfolio optimization. The person on the other end chuckled. Translation: make me whole enough to stop caring. Pennies on the dollar, if the pennies were polished. While the pieces lined up, I watched his social. He posted a shot of the Tesla with a caption about levels. Comments were thirsty. I zoomed in on the reflection in the paint and caught the final notice envelope on the stoop behind him, bright as a flare. Ego edits the frame. Unpaid balances don't. At night, I ate ramen again and told myself the ritual was a circle, not a spiral. My neighbor's cat started sleeping at the foot of the air mattress like he was guarding a fort. Mom texted a photo of my dad's old toolbox. Do you want this? I did. I wanted things that fixed other things. I wanted tools that didn't talk. I set reminders for every tick of the timeline, license lapses, vendor renewals, lien sale dates, rate reset. I built a calendar that looked like a siege, not a battering ram, just a patient drip. He'd miss one mortgage to prioritize growth, then another to bridge cash flow. The bank doesn't care about captions. It cares about checks that don't clear. On a Sunday, I drove past his place again. Dead hydrangeas slumped against the porch. Stacked parcels leaned like drunk soldiers. Inside, a ring light. Outside, silence. I didn't knock. Urges are not instructions. Gravity was working. All I had to do was keep my feet under me and let the board tilt. Starve the runway without leaving fingerprints. The first wave hit on a Tuesday morning when the trial licenses quietly aged out. Nothing dramatic, just polite pop-ups saying, renew. Support inbox lit like a slot machine stuck on sevens. His ops guy forwarded threads to engineering, which now meant him and a contractor who still called branches folders. I wasn't anywhere in the routing rules, which was the point. When customers can't use the product, they don't argue, they churn. I sent 3 anonymous bug reports to the open source list, the kind that look like curiosity but read like concern. Interesting memory spikes under load, I wrote, then attached a sanitized graph. Engineers smell smoke and start asking where the fire is. Investors smell smoke and open their calendars. Then I let the fork breathe. I posted one release note to the permissive branch, clearer docs, safer defaults, a migration guide that made it easy to try without commitment. I didn't pitch it. I just left the door unlocked and the light on. A few community folks wandered in, left thoughtful comments. One spun up a demo. Another tagged a VC they liked. That was enough. You don't have to shout if you're standing where people are already facing. I made 2 coffees with 2 mutuals who like to call themselves pattern recognizers. I asked about scalability, then went quiet. They filled the silence with their favorite cautionary tales. We've seen teams stall right here, one said, tapping his mug. Founders go wide on marketing when they need to go deep on ops, said the other. None of this was about me or him. It was about gravity again. Concern floats. Everybody shares it because it feels like advice without the liability. Vendors notice patterns faster than investors. A payment processor asked for prepayment given volatility in the sector. ADP flagged a payroll batch for manual review after a routing mismatch. These aren't roadblocks. They're sand in the gears. Every delay eats a day. Every day burns runway. He addressed his board chat with a paragraph about macro headwinds and short-term liquidity management. The screenshot hit a mutual's phone, then mine. Words like that are legal aspirin. They don't fix anything. They just make it feel treated. Meanwhile, the customer Slack, the one he turned into a marketing billboard, started to sound like a town hall. A CFO from a mid-market client asked for an uptime history report before renewal. Translation: we're shopping. He posted a selfie in a glass-walled conference room with a caption about stacking wins. I recognized the WeWork by the wall art and the fact the lights were off in the background because the sensors had given up. In the reflection, a red envelope sat on his desk. Important: mortgage. Attention is a crop you can't eat. The consequence I needed arrived in a single sentence from a mutual delivered over a burrito. He's skipping a mortgage to make payroll. He'd reframed it as prioritizing growth, which is a poet's way of saying, I'm underwater. Miss 1 to save face. Miss 2 to pretend it was a strategy. Lenders don't read captions. I didn't call him. I documented. I saved the support threads, the vendor flags, the investor coffee notes, and the fork traction. Not as trophies, just as a ledger. Quiet as a paper trail with good lighting. Every piece had to be clean. If a judge read it, I wanted it to sound like a calendar, not a diary. On Wednesday, I set up a voicemail box with a generic name and a pleasant female voice thanking callers for reaching accounts. Then I bought a small portfolio of charged-off consumer debt from a regional buyer who sounded like he did this between yard work and dinner. Buried in the CSV was a familiar name, a familiar last 4 of a familiar card. 3 calls, 1 contract, wire sent. I now owned a piece of his past, priced as the market's boredom with his promises. I mailed a letter that could have won a politeness award. No threats, just terms, options, a number he could live with if he wanted to. He didn't respond. Silence is a strategy until it's not. It's also a tell, avoidance as self-preservation. I logged the non-response, stamped the timeline, moved the calendar invite forward. Then I approached the junior lien holder on the HELOC, like a man asking to adopt a houseplant someone kept forgetting to water. We talked portfolio cleanup. They countered with a number meant to scare me. I countered with a spreadsheet proving why they should be scared of holding. Pennies on the dollar look shinier when you've been staring at dust. We shook hands over email. Through all of it, I kept the heat low. No sudden moves, no gloating. The fork community posted a small win. Someone used it to process a dataset ours had gagged on. A tiny gif of a raccoon washing grapes got more likes than his last product announcement. Pattern interrupt. Not mine to claim, just mine to notice. He blamed market headwinds again in a podcast that 5 people would finish. I listened anyway. He sold adversity like merch, but the county recorder didn't subscribe. A notice of default hit the system a week later, a PDF with his parcel number and a date that fit perfectly on my calendar. The runway he paved with captions was down to scrub. That night, I ate ramen with an egg like it was a holiday. The neighbor's cat jumped onto my lap for the first time, then pretended he hadn't. I set my alarm for early. Tomorrow, I would make the call that would move me from spectator to stakeholder. Not a threat, just process. Quiet wins when you let paperwork do the talking. Acquire the debt. Paper cuts that bleed. The morning I became a creditor, the sky was the color of unsent emails. I brewed coffee, opened 3 tabs, and started dialing. Secondary debt lives in a gray hallway between finance and boredom. If you know how to nod at both sides, the door's open. 3 calls, 1 contract. That was the plan. I'd learned the script. Be polite, be exact, never sound eager. First call was to a broker who treated portfolios like yard sales. He said, "You looking for cherry picks or pallets?" I said, "Targeted pull from a recent charge-off consumer. Last known address matches a property of interest." He grunted approval at my vocabulary. He sent a tape, names, balances, last payments, notes like, "Promised 3rd time." Buried in row 48 sat the familiar combination of name and address. Balance, annoying but not life-ending. Status, written off, sold once, underperforming. Translation, cheap. I asked for a sample agreement, redlined what smelled like nonsense, and wired what amounted to the price of a used laptop. The email came back, assignment of accounts. Suddenly, I wasn't just a guy with screenshots. I was a line on someone's statement. I drafted a letter that sounded like a human wrote it. Options, not threats. A payment plan that would get the account to settled in full without breaking his back. I used a P.O. box, included a phone number to my calm voicemail, and logged the send date like it was a birthday. He didn't respond. Ghosting works on girlfriends, not on ledgers. I documented every attempt, every timestamp, every no contact at X time. Not to hound him. Harassment is for amateurs and lawsuits, but to paint a clean picture if anyone asked later. Process is a polite hammer. Next, I went hunting for the HELOC. Junior liens are strange. They matter until they don't, and then they matter again when a sale is on the horizon. I found the servicer who'd inherited the portfolio after a merger that looked like 2 drunk uncles trying to dance. I asked about a non-performing junior position on a parcel I could recite from memory. The man on the phone sighed like he'd been waiting for someone to take this headache. He quoted me a number that assumed I was stupid. I countered with what the county data whispered. Arrears stacked, rate set to reset, equity mostly cosplay. We danced. He sent a payoff matrix. I sent comps of similar paper clearing for less. He tried the limited timeline. I said I was comfortable walking. Comfortable is a word that turns bluffs into exhale. We landed on pennies that sparkled. The assignment arrived in a PDF bouquet. I printed it all, filed it, and sat for a second with the quiet weight of position. Second lien doesn't make you king, it makes you patient. But patience was my thing. With the card and the HELOC in hand, I scheduled a call with a foreclosure attorney who billed by the quarter hour and refused to sell me victory. I liked him immediately. I laid out the timeline, the assignments, the notices. He nodded at the clean edges. "We're not here to ruin anyone," I said. "We're here to let the process work." He said, "Then stick to letters and filings. No door knocks, no surprise visits, no cowboy stuff." I agreed. Cowboys lose in courthouses. Rate reset day showed up like a tax bill. His mortgage payment jumped, as predicted, and predictability is a solvent. It dissolves excuses and ego spin. My phone buzzed with a podcast clip he'd posted about outworking the algorithm. I watched it on mute while scanning the trustee's site for recording updates. The notice of default matured into a notice of sale, a date inked on a calendar other people pretended not to see. Each document had the precise cruelty of gravity doing math. I sent one more polite offer on the charged-off card, this time with a deadline. "We can resolve this amicably with a discount if we establish contact by X." Silence again. Fine. I checked the log, updated the file, and put the envelope in the neat stack that said I'd tried. Meanwhile, the fork gathered small wins like seashells. A university lab cited it in a blog post for replicable results. A mid-sized client thanked the community for quick fixes. None of that had my name, and that was the point. Every alternative to his product siphoned urgency he couldn't monetize. He needed runway. I needed the clock. He started filing countermoves in public, threads about bad actors, a vague C&D screenshot with the address C cropped out. My lawyer sent a single paragraph in response to the only real letter. Dates, commits, license text. It landed like a wet towel. No more noise. A week later, a courier dropped a thick envelope on my P.O. box. It was a routine update from the trustee about sale procedures. The bottom half listed bidders' rules in patient print, cashier's checks, increments, identification. The path was narrow and well lit. I highlighted dates, made a list of denominations, and wrote, "Do not improvise" at the top. That night, I phoned my mom. I didn't say what I was doing. I just asked how to get eggshells out of a cake mix because the neighbor kid had knocked, borrowed my bowl, and panicked. She told me to fish them with a bigger piece of shell. I laughed, thought about systems that separate cleanly, and slept for 6 hours without waking. Rate reset plus missed payments equals inevitability. He posted #hustle never sleeps with a skyline that wasn't ours. Notices stacked, red and quiet. I wasn't rushing. I was aligning. Paper cuts don't kill by drama. They bleed because you stop noticing. The auction date held steady on the trustee's page. I circled it in my calendar, bought a cheap sandwich bag from the bodega, and labeled it with a Sharpie. Funds. Process. No victory laps. Personal life phrase. Resolve hardens. The week the notice of sale posted, my air mattress developed a slow leak. I'd fall asleep at a normal altitude and wake up folded like a taco. It felt poetic in a way I hated. I patched it with duct tape and told myself it was temporary, knowing I'd been saying temporary for months. Grind tolerance masquerading as virtue. Ramen again. I tried a different brand to trick my brain. It tasted like the same decision reheated. The neighbor's cat started acting like my landlord, visiting at dusk, inspecting corners, flicking his tail at the state of my life. I told him I was working on it. He blinked, unimpressed. Mom called on a Sunday when the light makes everything look honest. "You sure this isn't eating you alive?" Her voice softened around the edges like she was holding a cup of tea. She checks my moral weather more than my wins. I walked to the window and watched a couple arguing about a parking spot they both didn't own. "I'm okay," I said. "I'm just in process." She sighed. "Your dad used to say revenge is an expensive hobby." I smiled. "I'm not decorating it. I'm closing it out." A school fundraiser flyer slid into my life via a mutual's repost. Ethan's kid's face in the collage, holding a paper rocket. The caption asked for donations for new library shelves. My cursor hovered. I told myself not to blur lines. Then I clicked donate and selected anonymous. The receipt landed in my inbox, and I stared at it longer than I needed to. Balance, I reminded myself. Paper, not people. That night, a DM popped up from Ethan. The preview line read, "Let's not make this worse." I opened it. He'd written a neat paragraph about misunderstandings, stress, we were brothers once, and a promise to make me whole someday when the market turned. He ended with a smiley that looked like a cut. I didn't reply. I took a screenshot, added it to the folder, closed the window, and made tea I didn't want. To keep from spiraling, I set small rituals. Morning, coffee, trustee site check. 5 push-ups, feed the cat a treat he hadn't earned. Afternoon, 30 minutes of code on the fork to keep my hands honest. Evening, read a chapter of a dry book about municipal bonds to remind myself that money is just rules pretending to be physics. It helped. A tiny laugh found me at the bodega. The cashier had started setting aside the off-brand ramen I liked, stacking it near the counter like a private joke. He nodded at my sandwich bag of cashier's checks like he knew what they were for, then rang up a single apple and said, "On the house." I bit it on the sidewalk and tasted something not processed. It felt like a small win. Ethan escalated. A cease and desist, badly ghostwritten, arrived in my inbox demanding I stop interfering with business relationships. My lawyer sent a 1-paragraph reply with dates and attachments. I printed both and filed them under noise and reply. He went on a podcast and told a story about betrayal that managed to star in every sentence. I listened because I like to know the weather. The sky he described wasn't the one I saw. Resolve isn't rage, it's maintenance. It's the boring discipline of not taking the bait. I checked the locks on my plan. The license heartbeat timers were still ticking. The fork community was healthy without my hand on the scale. The trustees page held the date steady like a metronome. I added calendar alerts with ridiculous labels. Don't be dumb. Paper over pride. Eat a vegetable. When your life shrinks to a plan, humor is a vitamin. I walked past his street one evening and noticed a moving box turned into a makeshift nightstand in his window. The hydrangeas were now brittle punctuation marks. His girlfriend's car was there. A new flag hung on the porch. An aspirational slogan about grind that sounded like a dare to the bank. I kept walking. The urge to knock rose and fell like a bad song. I swallowed it. Discipline is not doing the thing you'll have to apologize for. The notice of sale came with a location and a time. Courthouse steps, 10 a.m. I circled it twice on a wall calendar I'd drawn lines on like prison tallies. The neighbor's cat finally curled into my lap and purred without pretense. I scratched behind his ear and said, "We're close." He flicked his ear like, "Don't jinx it." I set one more rule out loud because saying it makes it true. No gloating. If this works, I don't post, I don't subtweet, I don't tell a story that puts me in lights. I sign where I'm told. I treat people like they're people, and I go home to a bed that doesn't deflate. He chose to be the main character. I chose to be the author of a very boring, very effective process. On the fridge, I taped a list. Cashier's checks, ID, trustee notice, attorney's card, sandwich, underlined, breathe. When I turned off the light, the air mattress held. I lay there listening to the building settle. Gravity was still working. Morning would come whether I slept or not. I slept. The forked path at 90 days. 90 days after the teaser rate shrugged and walked away, I stood on the sidewalk across from his house with coffee cooling in my hand. Hydrangeas, brown and skeletal, leaned like they'd given up mid-sentence. Parcels stacked at the door had that sun-faded look of things waiting for the wrong person. He paced with a phone on speaker, voice bright in a way that sounds like a last light bulb. Through the front window, I caught slices of a half-packed living room, ring light, tripod, a poster board vision map with arrows to words like scale and exit, 3 boxes serving as a coffee table. I stayed outside the property line. I wasn't a ghost. I was a stranger. From the sidewalk, the house looked like a screenshot of a life paused on a buffering wheel. He laughed at something in his ear, then threw his hands at the ceiling. The girlfriend wove around boxes with a laundry basket, jaw set. It wasn't schadenfreude, it was weather. I watched for a minute, then turned away. Temptation to knock climbed my throat and sat on my tongue. I swallowed it, tasted copper, kept walking. Back at my apartment, I laid out the final prep like a surgeon. Cashier's checks in the exact denominations the trustee would accept, color-coded sticky notes with parcel number, trusteesale ID, my LLC name spelled out with a comma in the right place. Title search printed, circled with notes where easements lived and where nuisances pretended to. My quiet LLC had a bank account, a mailbox, and a history that was exactly as boring as it needed to be. Ritual reduces fear. I rehearsed my name plus authorized signatory until the phrase didn't feel like cosplay. My phone buzzed while I was labeling envelopes. Unknown number, city code I knew. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, a text slotted in from a number without a name. He's shopping a bridge. Says he just needs 90 days. No signature, but the cadence was familiar. An old mentor liked to send me single-line truths. I called him. He picked up on the second ring, voice low like he was in a hallway. He asked me yesterday, he said without hello. Wanted me to paper a small, fast thing backed by future receivables that don't exist. I sat down. Are you considering it? I was, until I saw his new D and your fork mentioned in a diligence doc. I don't fund hope. You know that. I know. Silence found us like an old couch. You want me to say no, he said. I want the process to be fair, I said, which was true and also incomplete. If he gets a bridge, the auction pushes. The kid stays in the school for a semester. If he doesn't, the bank does what banks do. He sighed. He pitched me brotherhood. I told him I fund businesses, not reunions. I'm out. Thank you, I said, and meant it, and also felt the odd shape of relief I didn't want to admit. We talked one more minute about nothing, then hung up. I stared at the cashier's checks like they might change their mind. The path stayed lit. That evening, I walked one more loop around the block, like a pilot circling before landing. A man with a dog nodded at me like we shared a secret. We didn't. The house glowed in rectangle slices. A TV flickered through blinds. My feet slowed of their own accord at the edge of his lawn. I could have knocked. I could have said a sentence that would detonate 100 smaller ones. I pictured the Ring doorbell recording my face and my voice, and the future hearing it played back in a room with fluorescent lighting. I kept walking. Discipline is a muscle you don't get to show off. Back home, I slid the cashier's checks into the labeled sandwich bag, zipped it closed like a ritual. I set the alarm, then set a backup. I texted my attorney, confirmed prep, see you on steps. He replied with a thumbs up I trusted more than encouragement. Before sleep, I opened the trustee's page one more time. The auction line sat steady, unmoved by podcasts, captions, or nostalgia. Morning would arrive on schedule. The forked path had a sign now. I chose the one with paperwork, counter moves. He fights dirty. The first punch landed as an email from a law firm I'd only seen brag on Instagram. A cease and desist with my name in bold, accusing me of inducing breach on a new contract gig I'd picked up to keep my lights on. He CC'd my client like it was a courtesy. I breathed, counted to 5, and forwarded everything to my lawyer with the folder of receipts, scopes of work, dates. The diagram showing my code path diverged months before his patent stunt. My lawyer wrote one paragraph that read like a brick, citations, attachments, timestamps.
The client replied 20 minutes later, "We're proceeding as planned." Then another line that felt like a pat on the shoulder. "We don't reward theatrics." He pivoted to story warfare. A thread appeared on a subreddit he used to lurk, alleging I'd stolen code and poached clients. The account was new and sloppy. It spelled my last name wrong in one place.
And right in another. I posted 2 screenshots from the commit history, the license text highlighted, and a polite note. Different branches, different owners, same rules. The mods locked the thread. Silence is an approval, but sometimes it's the only applause you get. A real lawyer letter followed, a sterner one, watermark heavy. It rattled sabers about injunctive relief. My attorney sent a reply that fit in one email pane, attached the paper trail, and CC'd their ethics inbox for dessert. The volley ended there. No judge wants to read a founder's manifesto. Judges want dates. He started messing with optics. A photo of his girlfriend lugging a box through the doorway with a caption about family resilience, angled to hint at homestead protections he didn't qualify for. He filed a homestead claim anyway, backdated with a flourish that smelled like cologne. The county clerk flagged the inconsistencies before lunch. Timeline is a bouncer that checks IDs without smiling. The claim sat in the queue with a yellow note. Review. Evidence mismatched. Process doesn't argue. It stamps. I watched my own edges because anger likes to light its own fuse. I wanted to subtweet. I didn't. I wanted to call our former engineer and say, "See? I didn't." Instead, I watered the dying basil in my kitchen, read 3 pages about bond covenants, and wrote down 2 sentences I could say in any room without blushing. Here are the documents. Here is the date. He tried one more angle, contacting a mutual founder to warn them I was unstable. The mutual texted me a screenshot and then, "If this is what I think it is, keep going." I replied with a thumbs up, which felt like passing a test I hadn't studied for. Across town, someone added a star to the fork on Git, and it made the same small sound in my chest. As the auction approached, his post took on a breathless edge. Hustle slogans got longer, photos got tighter, cropping out the space where the furniture used to be. An interior plan appeared that I recognized from the WeWork lobby. He'd borrowed it for a video and then pretended it lived with him. Performance art pays in comments, not checks. The night before the auction, he sent me a final DM. "We can still settle this like men." The phrase felt like a jacket from a store I don't go to. I typed and erased 3 replies, then closed the app. I printed the trustee's rules one more time and packed a sandwich like it was finals week. Bread, turkey, the good mustard, because dignity travels better with condiments. I slid the cashier's checks into the labeled bag and said the list out loud. Checks, ID, notice, PIN, patience. The cat watched from the counter like a supervisor. "We're not gloating," I told him. He yawned. Sleep came in slices. Every creak sounded like a knock. I woke at 5, sat with my coffee, and reread the attorney's last message. "We do not antagonize. We attend. We bid. We close." I liked the verbs. They were plain, like tools that fit your hand. Before I left, I checked the county clerk's site one last time. His homestead claim had been marked insufficient. A separate filing, something his lawyer must have hoped would spook me. A motion threatening a TRO against unnamed parties had been denied on jurisdictional grounds. Process had shoulders. It shrugged. On my way down the stairs, I passed my neighbor in the hall. He nodded at the bag in my hand. "Big day?" he asked. "Just paperwork," I said. He laughed like that was a joke. Outside, the air felt like early resolve. I didn't rehearse outcomes. I rehearsed the steps between. At a red light, I said to no one, "Paper over pride." The light changed. I drove. The auction. Betting the house. Courthouse mornings smell like paper and old decisions. The steps were already crowded. Flippers in baseball caps, retirees and windbreakers holding clipboards, a couple of sharks with sunglasses that stayed on even in the shade. Everyone's eyes moved without moving, cataloging who carried what. I kept my head down, sandwich bag in my jacket, cashier's checks stacked like teeth. The auctioneer was a man who'd said the same words so often they no longer belonged to him. Authority by repetition, the psychology of process made human. He stood on a milk crate with a binder and a tie that looked ironed by time. "Trusteesale number," he droned, then a parcel, then terms he could have read in his sleep. A woman to my left mouth counted increments like prayers. A guy behind me whispered cap rates into a phone that pretended to be on mute. The air had that charged quiet right before a race starts. He rattled through the early parcels, condos with HOA lawsuits, land with an access dispute, a duplex that made 3 different men clear their throats. Each address felt like a life reduced to an abbreviation.
Then he turned a page, and my chest knew before my ears did. The number, the street, the city, his house. My palms went dry. I checked the bag one more time like checking wouldn't change.
Anything. Opening bid at the beneficiary's instruction, the auctioneer said, naming a number that sounded low to anyone who didn't know the liens stacked like dirty dishes. Hesitation rippled. Junior positions make people skittish. That was my advantage. Silence stretched a beat too long. I raised my hand the way you do when answering a question in a class you can actually pass. The auctioneer nodded without looking. "We have," he said, then repeated the number plus a crisp increment. A man in a fishing hat squinted at me like I'd insulted his weekend. He raised, small, testing. I matched, small, steady. The increments were a metronome. My pulse tried to sink and failed. The sharks held back, calculating haircuts on a property that had more paperwork than curb appeal. A woman with a binder asked a whispered question about occupancy. The answer must not have sung. She stepped back. We climbed. Not high, but precise. The fishing hat man scratched his cheek, looked at the sky for an answer it didn't hold, and pushed once more. I let him, then added a notch like a person adding salt after tasting. He frowned, considered the stack of unknowns, and let his hand fall. The auctioneer's cadence didn't change. "Any further advances?" he said, not caring either way. It got quiet in the way only courthouses know how. Sound drained, time thickened. I could feel my lawyer off to the side, doing his statue impression, giving me nothing so I wouldn't lean on it. The auctioneer looked around like a lighthouse. "Going once," he said. A shoe scuffed behind me. "Going twice?" A gull somewhere made a noise like a hinge. "Sold to." He glanced at my slip, read the LLC's boring, comma-accurate name, and moved on before my heartbeat did. The sound in my bones wasn't triumph. It was relief's cousin, heavier, quieter. Revenge high is a myth. Closure is a low hum. I exhaled like my ribs had been holding their own meeting. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I stepped back from the crate, away from the shark smell, and checked the screen. "Mom, how'd it go?" I typed. "Bought a house. Long story." A beat, then her bubble. "Call when you can. Eat something." I remembered the sandwich and took a bite that tasted like plain bread and a new kind of empty. The auctioneer kept mowing the lawn of people's lives. I found the trustee's helper, a woman with a clipboard and an expression that said she'd seen every version of surprised. I handed over the checks like I'd practiced and the denominations they wanted, with the parcel number sticky noted on top. She counted like a machine, nodded, stamped a receipt that clicked in my chest, and said the words I'd been pacing toward. "Trustee's deed upon sale will record in 1 to 3 business days. You'll get confirmation." I thanked her with a voice that had to find its feet. My lawyer stepped close enough to hand me a card with the lock change company's number. "Schedule," he said. "Daylight. No drama. Paper on you?" I nodded, pocketed the card, and chilled at the word daylight like it was a requirement of decency. Across the steps, the flippers were already doing math with their hands. The sharks had gone expressionless, which is how they say goodbye. A retiree with a neat mustache shook his head at a duplex he'd lost by one bid and said, "To no one, wasn't meant." I wasn't superstitious, but I felt something shift under the concrete, a notch clicking into a gear. Not fate, just consequence finally catching its breath. On my way down the steps, I paused at the bottom because my knees decided to vote. I texted my attorney, confirmed, deed pending. He replied with a period and a thumbs up, the most emotional punctuation he'd allow. I looked at the street, at the traffic doing its normal thing, at a kid hopping over a crack with serious concentration, at a couple arguing about nothing important. The world hadn't swung. It had inched. Back in the car, I sat with the quiet. I didn't take a photo. I didn't write a caption. I put the receipt in the glove box, then moved it to the inside pocket of my jacket because glove boxes are where hope goes to warp. I breathed, counted to 5, and drove home by a route that took me nowhere near his street. At a red light, my mentor called. "Well?" he asked. "Closed," I said. He said nothing for a long second, then, "Good. Now don't spike the ball. Process to the end." "I know," I said, feeling the truth of it in my shoulders. Daylight, paper, no drama. He laughed once. "Look at you. Go eat." At home, the cat met me at the door like a landlord again, tail up, judging. I broke the sandwich in half and gave him a corner he pretended not to want, then ate the rest standing at the counter. I opened my notebook and wrote one line. Hammer fell. Under it, another. Change locks. Bring patience. The apartment felt the same, and somehow larger, like new air had been installed. I didn't call anyone else. I didn't check his feed. I washed my hands, set the receipt under a magnet. Shaped like a fruit I couldn't afford, and stared at it until staring turned into stillness. The steps were done. The next part wasn't noise. It was a doorbell, a porch, and paper that didn't raise its voice. The reveal, no screaming, just paper. I scheduled it like a dentist appointment. Daylight, short window, clear purpose. Exposure therapy for pride. Show up, speak plainly, leave. The trustee's deed recorded that morning. I had the stamped confirmation in my pocket with the chain of assignments and a fresh set of keys in a tamper bag. My lawyer's last text read, polite, precise, leave if heeded. I parked down the block, breathed until my pulse stopped narrating, and walked to the porch. The door opened before I could knock. Ethan stood there in joggers and a shirt that used to fit better, bravado lacquered over surprise. Wow, he said, smile tight. You stalking me now? Daylight, Ethan, I said. No cameras. Can we talk on the porch? He leaned on the frame like he owned it. Make it quick. I've got calls. I held out a neat stack, clipped and labeled. Trustee's deed upon sale, recorded. Assignment of the HELOC to my LLC. Assignment of the charged off card. Payment receipts. The auction receipt. I'm here as the owner, I said. This is the chain. You'll want to read. He took the papers like they might bite. The first page drained color from his face. The second took the rest. This is a mistake, he said, voice wobbling toward indignation. I filed, the Homestead claim was marked insufficient, I said calmly. The motion you filed was denied on jurisdiction. The sale proceeded. The deed recorded. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to set terms. He flipped through, eyes catching on the bolded parcel number, the recording stamp, the dull mercy of process. You did this, he said, more to the railing than to me. Paper did this, I said. I bought the paper. For a full 10 seconds, we listened to a delivery truck hiss at the curb. His girlfriend hovered in the hallway behind him, holding a roll of tape like a prop. Babe, she said, small. He didn't answer. What do you want? He asked finally, jaw hard. I could tell he was searching for the angle where he wins with a speech. There wasn't one. Cash for keys, I said. 30 days. 2 scheduled walkthroughs, 1 week before move out and on turn-in day. No trashing, no midnight moves, no the movers lost the doors. You get a fair sum when the house is clean. You return the keys then, and the deposit clears the same day. If you need 2 extra weeks, we can discuss a per diem. No rent, no courts. Quiet. He laughed once like a cough. You're evicting me from my own home and calling it quiet? His voice reached for outrage because shame was closer. I'm offering a path with dignity, I said. The alternative is the sheriff, a writ, and strangers packing your bedroom while a locksmith changes the lock. I don't want that for you, or for your kid. He flinched at kid like I'd pressed a bruise. The girlfriend set the tape on a box and stepped back, eyes darting between us. What about my stuff? She asked, defensive in the way of someone who arrived late to a fire. My name's not. This is not about you, I said gently. You'll have time to move your belongings. I'm not photographing your toothpaste. Ethan's eyes landed on the payment receipts. You lined this up, he muttered. You've been... God, how long? Long enough to know this conversation needed paper, I said. We can end it right here with signatures and dates. He squinted at the deed again, shook his head like he could rattle time backward. Give me 90 days, he said. I can raise. I've got a bridge. The bridge backed out, I said. If you had 90 days, we wouldn't be on this porch. His chest deflated. For a second, he looked like the guy I met when we were both hungry and unrealistically certain. Then he straightened and reached for insult like a coat. You always envied me, he said, a little smile cutting at the edges. The way rooms listened. You never had that. Projection, textbook, and tired. I don't need rooms, I said. I need signatures. I laid the agreement on a box and clicked the pen. The terms were in plain English. He stared at the lines where his name waited, then at me. The girlfriend watched the neighbor's lawn because there are moments you don't want to belong to. A kid's scooter leaned against the railing, one wheel faded by sun. He took the pen, hesitated like the ink might confess, and signed the first line, then the second. Somewhere a lawnmower started, a domestic soundtrack to a different life. He slid the papers back. 30 days, he said. You get your clean house. I get whatever this is. Cash on move out, I said. Keys exchanged here, daylight. There's a hotline number for questions that isn't me. Use it. He looked up like he wanted me to say something cinematic. I didn't. I folded the signed agreement, placed his copy on the box, and set a small transparent bag with a new lock set on the porch rail. For your door, I said. If the old lock sticks. He almost smiled at that. Almost. You always were the Boy Scout, he tried. Then softer, less sure. We could have been... We were exactly what we were, I said. This part is just paperwork catching up. As I stepped down, he called after me. Do you feel like a winner? I paused on the second step, the place between inside and out, and answered without looking back. I feel done. Completion beats conquest. I walked to the sidewalk with my copy, the dates circled. Behind me, Tape tore along cardboard, small and final. The aftermath. Consequences land. The first email hit 2 days after the porch. Subject line: board action. I wasn't CC'd, but people forward the weather. They'd voted to remove Ethan as CEO, effective immediately, for cause spelled with careful syllables. An interim stepped in with a plan that sounded like triage. I closed the laptop and stared at the cat, who blinked like a gavel. My nervous system finally believed me. I pushed my chair back and went to work. Not on gloating, on code. The open sourcing happened the right way. I posted the cleaned, documented branch with a letter that was all nouns and verbs. No victory lap. Just license, lineage, and a roadmap anyone could understand. It wasn't an act of charity. It was continuity. A dozen forks appeared within a week, and the best ideas rose because that's what happens when the room isn't locked from the inside. 2 engineers I used to sit beside reached out separately with versions of the same sentence: I'm tired. I met them in a diner where the coffee didn't pretend to be anything else. We talked money first. Fair pay, clear options, no cult. Then we talked boundaries. No slack after 8, no family language, no weaponized passion. They nodded like people who needed a job in a place that didn't lie. I sent them offers that evening. They accepted before morning. In the house, time thinned out. The first evening alone, every sound felt like a question. I started with the kitchen. Coffee stains on the wall behind the machine came off in pale swirls. I painted the patch the same color it had wanted to be and left the height marks in the hallway like a treaty with history. A small plastic dinosaur turned up under the stove, dusty and brave. I rinsed it, wrapped it in bubble, and wrote a note to the kid in blocky printing. He looked like he missed you. I mailed it with no return address. 2 days later, a thank you card arrived with a drawing of a T-Rex and 3 words: he likes windows. I put it on the fridge with the deed receipt. The settlement closed without ceremony. Numbers moved, signatures hardened. My quiet LLC, the boring name with the comma, became the line on the title that mattered. I walked the empty rooms at dusk, listening to the house exhale. It didn't feel like a trophy. Trophies want to be shown. This wanted to be lived in. I moved in a mattress first, not air, real. Then a table, then a lamp that turned on without buzzing. I stood in the doorway with the switch in my hand and let the click mark the end of the air mattress era. Work settled into an honest rhythm. The new clients didn't care about the soap opera. They cared about the SLA. We shipped small, solid updates and answered emails like adults. On a Tuesday, a compliance team finished due diligence and wired a retainer with a note I liked: appreciate the documentation. I bought tacos for the 3 of us and promised no speeches. We ate in the yard on overturned buckets, the cat stalking a leaf like it owed him money. On a shelf by the door, I put Dad's toolbox. The latches made a sound that folded time without breaking it. Inside, wrenches that knew what to do when hands didn't. I tightened a hinge in the hallway and felt the absurd pride of a door sitting right. The house stopped feeling like a heist and started feeling like a job I was hired to do. Keep it standing, keep it kind. I wrote rules in a notebook I didn't let the internet see. Document, breathe. Don't explain to people committed to misunderstanding. Hit where it counts and only where it counts. Sleep. Self-psychology on a page. Guardrails against my own worst impulses. When I felt the itch to check his feed, I did push-ups or washed a baseboard. Boredom is underrated as medicine. One afternoon, while patching a scuff in the living room, my phone buzzed with a headline. The company had pivoted to a smaller, saner product. They cited the community work I'd seeded without naming me, which felt correct. The comments were kind, then quiet. Quiet is where work loves. On garbage night, I rolled 2 bins to the curb and noticed the hydrangeas at the porch had a few green nubs pretending towards spring. I trimmed the dead wood and left the rest alone. You can't force a bloom. You can only stop stepping on it. The mailbox held the deed copy, crisp and a little smug. I slid it into a drawer with 3 things: the dinosaur thank you, the signed cashforkeys agreement already fulfilled, and the letter I'd written and never sent. I didn't open it. Some words belonged to the version of you that needed them. At the end of the month, my accountant sent a note. You could afford a bed frame. I bought one. The first night I climbed into a bed that didn't hiss, I lay still and listened to the absence of sinking. The house hummed like a good machine. I slept without vigil. The unexpected conversation. The knock came on a Sunday, soft enough to be optional. I opened the door and found her on the porch. Ethan's ex-wife. Jacket zipped to her throat, eyes carrying a week's worth of sleep she hadn't met yet. She glanced past me into the house, then back at my face like she was measuring how much I'd make her ask. I'm not here to fight, she said. I'm here because our son keeps asking if he has to switch schools. I stepped back so she could stand out of the wind, but not inside. "We can talk on the stoop," I said. "Do you want tea?" She shook her head no, like favors were dangerous. She studied the hydrangeas, the green nubs that pretended toward spring. "He told me you took the house," she said, not accusing, just sorting. "He told me it was vindictive." "I bought what the bank sold," I said. "It's more boring than it sounds." She half smiled. "He never did boring." She rubbed her sleeves like they itched. "Look, I don't need the details. I need to know if you're going to throw them out before June. His teacher said stability matters. I want him to finish the year with the same bus driver." I nodded. "He and his dad have 30 days from the agreement. If he needs to finish the semester at that school, I can give you the transfer forms for the district, the contact for the registrar, and the rental resources list the PTA circulates when families move. I won't be the reason he sits in a new cafeteria mid-May." She exhaled and it fogged between us. "Thank you," she said. "I didn't expect." She stopped. "That's not fair. I don't know what to expect. Rules have been optional in my house for a while." "Not here," I said gently. "I enforce them." Her eyes flicked to the door behind me, to the clean paint where Coffee used to live. "He told me you ruined him," she said, the sentence more tired than angry. "He told me you made calls." "I filed paperwork," I said. "He made choices. I stayed quiet." She nodded like a judge stamping a file. "Quiet would have been nice," she said, almost to herself. "He turned our divorce into a speech." She tucked hair behind an ear, a practiced motion. "He told our son that winning is loud. I'd rather he learned that keeping your word is louder." Values beat virality. Kids can smell the difference. A boy's laugh echoed down the block, not theirs. She watched the sidewalk with a steady focus. "Do you hate him?" she asked, quick, like removing a splinter. "I'm tired of him," I said. "Hate is too much company. Distance is the boundary grief couldn't manage." She laughed once, dry. "That sounds like you knew him." "We ate a lot of noodles," I said. "He loved the part where rooms listened." She stared at her shoes for a beat. "He still does," she said, "even when there's no room." She reached into her bag and pulled out a neat folder. "I made a list," she said, almost apologetic. "Numbers for rentals near the school, a social worker who can expedite transfers, the PTA mom who actually answers emails. I was going to give it to him. He doesn't do lists. Maybe you do." I took the folder. "I do," I said, "and I have one for you." I went a step inside and returned with a single sheet. District transfer contact, rental assistance resources, the school's transportation coordinator. I called to confirm these last week. They know families move in the middle. She held the paper like it was heavier than it looked. "Thank you," she said again, the words less brittle. "I'm not here to absolve him. I just wanted to see if you were reasonable." "I'm trying to be human," I said. "I won't drag your kid into a courtroom. If something changes, I'll tell you with notice. No surprises." She looked at me like she was calibrating to a different kind of gravity. "He always thought rules were optional," she said, "that they were for other people." "I thought they were for me," I said. "I kept them." She glanced over my shoulder at the hallway, at the height marks I'd left. "You kept those," she said. "They belong to a history I didn't write," I said. "I'm not editing." We stood in a shared quiet that didn't need to win. A bird hopped on the railing and then decided against us. She zipped her jacket higher. "I should go," she said. "I have a second job now. I'm late if I'm not already driving." "Do you need anything from me today?" I asked. "A copy of the timeline? A number to call?" She shook her head. "Just this," she said. "Just a straight answer." She stepped down, paused, turned back. "He'll tell a story about you," she said. "He needs to. I won't correct him. I'll be busy making sure our son knows what ours look like." I nodded. "If you need anything within the rules, ask." She smiled, small and real. "You're very process," she said. "I mean that as a compliment." "I'll take it," I said. She walked down the path, shoulders loosening one notch. At the sidewalk, she lifted a hand in a wave that felt like a receipt. I closed the door and leaned against it, eyes on the paper she'd left, the paper I'd given. For the first time in months, breathing didn't feel like a task. The house hummed. Somewhere, a school bus hissed to a stop and opened its doors. New rules, new work. I went back to the code like it was a kitchen I actually liked cooking in. Clean repo, clear branches, tests that failed loudly and honestly. I wrote documentation first, like guardrails, then features inside them. The new product wasn't a revenge project. It was a thing that did what it promised without swagger. The first client after due diligence asked 3 hard questions and didn't flinch when I answered without decoration. We signed with pins that worked on the first try. We celebrated with tacos from a truck that didn't have a brand team, just grill smoke and a radio. I wrote my rules in a notebook with a cover that didn't try to inspire me. Document everything. Don't raise your voice. Keep receipts you can read 6 months from now. Fight only with paper. Never weaponize people. If it threatens a kid, drop it. Sleep. Discipline, not drama. I taped a copy inside the office closet where only I'd see it, like a fire code. When choices got noisy, I opened the door and read it out loud. The neighbor's cat decided I'd passed inspection. He took my lap like a lease and ignored his name like it was beneath him. It was a small joy that asked nothing. I let it. When I needed to breathe, I checked the hydrangeas. Green pushed through the sticks. Spring is patient. I tried to be too. I changed the locks the day the keys turned in, not because I wanted to erase anything, but because a house deserves to know who holds it. I kept my standards the same size they'd been on a mattress that hissed. The house felt earned, not stolen. I'd signed too many boring forms for it to feel like a trick. I installed a deadbolt that clicked like a period. Work found its pace. The engineers I hired sent pull requests that didn't need decoding. We argued about names with respect and commas with humor. Stand-ups took 15 minutes because we started on time. A client sent an email that began with, "Appreciate how you think," which I printed and stuck to the inside of a drawer because compliments should be stored, not displayed. I fixed things with Dad's toolbox, a loose outlet, a rattling vent, a door that didn't sit flush and now does. The house started answering back in small ways. No more mystery drafts, fewer sighs in the night. I liked the order of it. Problem, tool, solution, repeat. It was the opposite of speech making. It was work. On Sundays, I planned the week. Not a manifesto, just blocks of effort and breaks that meant it. I left time for errands, for quiet, for the unglamorous tasks that make glamorous ones possible. I told the team we were building for people who don't like surprises. They nodded like they'd had enough. The letter I wrote and never sent sat where I'd left it. I didn't need it anymore. It had done its job when my hands were shaking. Now my hands built things that didn't fall over when someone looked away. I thought about opening it. I did. Some drawers should stay closed until you're a different person. A school art show flyer came home in the kid's thank you envelope. Extra photocopy stuck by accident. I set it on the counter and stared at the dates. I didn't go. That wasn't my story to be the background of. I mailed another anonymous donation to the library instead. Paper can be kind too. We shipped a version that was small and correct. It didn't trend. It didn't need to. A customer wrote, "This saved us a weekend," and I took a walk instead of refreshing numbers. The hydrangeas had honest leaves now. The cat was bored with my success. Good. I made coffee, answered emails like they were bridges, and closed the laptop when the sun let me. The last rule I wrote was the simplest. When you can choose quiet, choose quiet. It doesn't clap. It doesn't step on anyone. It just lets the work stand in a room by itself and not apologize. I like that room. I lived there. Viral is loud. Peace is sticky. The letter stays sealed. I slide it into the drawer beside the deed, close it, and let the house settle around the choice. If you want more stories where quiet plans outlast loud betrayals, subscribe and turn on notifications. Watch the next video where a forged signature unravels 3 generations at a family reunion. Drop your "Am I wrong here?" moments in the comments. Yours might be next.